So today we are going to continue on how we can implement our reducer to the UI with their own binding and showing to the screen if our reducer is able to render the logic correctly on the UI. So without further ado, let's do it. So yesterday we've completed the logic for the reducer, so we can try to run. Let's see if we probably break something, but hopefully we don't break anything. Okay, cool. So we are okay right now. Let me fix it. This window. Okay, cool. So we are basically actually still in a green state, which is actually good. Before I try to bind the reducer to the UI, I still need to create the UI first, right? But there's still some logic left around here. I noticed that there is incorrect logic of mine, which is this particular logic, the login button tab. So when the login button tab, I firstly expecting that it is actually showing the error message if the state is empty without me checking the condition. So I'm not checking the email text field and the password text field is empty, but I immediately make the error message here. So my bad, but you can still fix it. Let's try to fix this by changing, by separating the logic. First, we want to show the error when the email text is empty, and also we want to show error when the password is empty, and we want to also show the error when both are empty, right? So for example, when the login button tapped, I need to shows error when email is empty, right? So when my email text is empty, but my password text is not empty, any password, when I should press the login button, then I should see an error message saying that email should not be empty. So this is my expectation right now. We're changing the behavior through the current unit test using test-driven development. So let's run the test again, Command U, and see if there is something we can do in the logic. Cool, so the test is failing. We are in a red state. It says that it doesn't meet the expected criteria, basically. So what we can do is when the email is empty, we can set here to forcefully passing the test for right now. Okay, the test is passing, so we can commit. So we are covering the scenario when email is empty, shows email error text for right now. But of course that's not the correct criteria, right? Because we are just forcing the text to show this message in here. We're not doing any logic here. But that's the process of test-driven development. So we can make another scenario to show error when the password is empty, right? So for now, email is not empty, any email at gmail.com, for example, and the password is empty. And my expectation is I should expect that the password should not be empty. Error message. So let's try, and we'll see that we actually have a failing test here. Cool, right? So because the text is the email should not be empty, not the password, but we are expecting the password should be empty text, right? So what we can do is maybe we can change this, but of course if we change this test is going to pass, but this test is going to fail, right? Right. So this is the process of test-driven development. We are adding a new behavior should be without breaking the old implementation. So let's get back to the old implementation. Here we need to add if statement if email text is empty for now. Then what we want to do is actually showing the error and just return, right? And if the password text is empty, what we want to do, we want to show that password error. We can just copy here and paste. Okay, let's run the test again and let's see. Okay, so we are in a green state, which is pretty good. So we can, I think we can comment here when login button tap shows password error when empty. Okay, let's commit. Okay, so there's another scenario that I want to cover, which is when both texts are empty. So let's copy, paste here, shows error when email and password is empty. So when these two are empty, I want to show that we are showing the email and password error should not be empty. So let's run the test again. Cool, we have a failing test, which is very first of our step, and we're expecting this message, right? So let's go to the implementation here and let's check if both are empty. Text is empty and that password text is empty. What we want to do, we want to show these both error message and just return none. So let's try run the test. We still have a failing test. What is it? Email and password should not be empty, but it is showing that. Okay, so I know because we are putting this in bottom, we should put here on the top here. Okay, cool. So we are passing this scenario. So we are trying to separate that error scenario into like 3 functions scenario error. So we are good to go right now. Let's add showing error message when email and password text are empty. Cool. Let's commit. Now we can implement, or at least trying to test our reducer logic on the view. But in this example, I think I'm gonna try playing around with SwiftUI. Why not? So let's go and build the SwiftUI application. I'm in view and let's name it login view. Here. Right. Okay. So let's run the preview. Let's make sure that we are clean to go. Okay, great. Now the first thing is we basically need the view itself, right? So we can wrap this into a v stack, right? And we need the spacing. Let's give it 8. And let's say this is the tile login to our app. Here. And we have like 2 text field for now. Fields. Here we have like email text field, and we have some kind of binding, which we can for temporarily use the local binding on the class. on the struct, I mean, here, and the password, which is using the similar property, and I think we will have a button which is the title of login, and we're not doing anything right now. And I hope we can have some kind of error text here, just for example. And let's fix the preview because the compiler doesn't recognize this. And let's make a state private var of email text is equal to empty string, and same as the error text, or I mean password text here. Okay, hopefully this is working right now. And let's see. Okay, what is it? Okay, let's delete that and let's make our preview working. Oh, we still need the padding, I mean, with the adds inset init. For example, I'm gonna give 15, 15, 15, and 15. Okay, looks very good. Okay, so this is our simple app for right now. We can interact with it, but it does nothing, right? I know it's very ugly, but this is only for demo purposes. I think we can make our error text wrapped right now, just for a little bit touch. Font title. Okay, cool. So this is the setup. What we can do, we can bind our reducer or the UI logic part into this view. But we can see the example from the Pointfree. So on their website, I think we need to have the stored property here. So it's a store and a store of my feature, and we can copy. So what we need is we need to inject the store, and of course we need to import the composable architecture, and we need our login screen feature here. And the compiler is going to, of course, guiding us to implement the store. And how I can instantiate our store? How can we inject our store in this login view? Well, we already have plenty of example. Of course, in the task, we are injecting the store, right? I mean, we are creating the store, not injecting it, but we can just copy here. And we can paste here. And of course, we are not going to use the test store, right? Because this view is expecting a store, not a test store. Here, as you can see, it's basically saying that we need to pass the store instead. So let's pass a store, and hopefully everything is fine right now. Okay, so we are already passing the store, but we are not doing anything with it. So how to interact with the store? Well, we can wrap all of our view in a with view store block, as we can see in their current version of README, on their current version of their README, I mean, with the view store, self, observe, view store, include. So you can just wrap everything here. And let's fix the indentation. Oh, cool. Xcode is fixing my indentation automatically. That's pretty cool. Okay, so far so good. And what we can do is, first we want to bind our view store for the text error, right? We want this have the error message. Otherwise, let's just leave it empty. Here, hopefully we're not breaking anything. Cool. And what if these two? So let's see. if we want to bind the text field value, we can use the bind option, binding here, and we need to get and send. Okay, we can choose one of them. Okay, cool. So what is this get? This is a closure of login screen state to value. We can just simply use this character dot our email text. So what is the send closure here? We need to some kind of have a login screen feature action, which is our login screen feature action dot when the email text field change here. So the same thing that will happen in this password. So the text value is viewStore dot binding. Okay, let's do the proper enter here, and this is basically a closure which we can actually use something like this, email text, but yeah, we can simplify more. Sorry, password text, and this is the same thing. We can just return on password text field change with the $0, or we can just use the same syntax as this one. Which is the on password text field change. Okay, so the last thing is the button. Now this button is actually an action, right? So this is a static text change here, and this is a binding with a get and send arguments. This one too, and this one is an action. So what we can do is we can call our viewStore here, send that corresponding action, which is when login button tapped. Right. So let me fix the indentation right now because it's very annoying to me. Okay, cool. So let's try to play around with our preview. So when email and password is empty, when we tap the login, the text field is shown for the email and password is empty. And when I try to tap, and when I try to fill the email here, for example, and hit login, it shows that password should not be empty. Cool. When I try to change any text field, it resets itself. And when I try to type the password with the empty email, it shows that email should not be empty. And then when I try to fill both, for example, and hit login, no error is shown. So this is a example implementation of the composable architecture. Actually, there is many more of this. In the composable architecture, there's like pullback, store, and many things. But my goal in this video is trying to implement a simple TCA with a test-driven development. So this is how we can combine both test-driven development on the TCA. So what we can do right now is commit. Why not bind reducer into the view. Right. Okay, so there is a tiny improvement for me because my goal is to create a simple task that is very understandable. But in here, it is kind of a little bit hard to see which instance is being tested, especially when we have a very long task. But for a simplicity, we can use the SUT naming, which is the system under test. It is indicating that which instances are we testing right now. So in this case, it's the store. So the store is the SUT, right? So we can just rename that into let SUT, and let's go to replace all. Okay, so these instances is actually the tested instances. So we still have like some error. We can fix that. Store.send is changed to become the sut.send. Cool. So let's run the test. Okay, so we are still in the green state. That's pretty good. So let's add something. Refactor some test code. Cool. So another thing that we can do is we don't use this email and password property here. We can just remove it. And yeah, I think we can commit, remove, and use it properties. Cool. So guys, I think that's all about the test-driven development and the DCA in this video. So we have successfully implementing and binding the reducer and the view using test-driven development. So we can see that when we try to type the email without the password, and that error message is there. When we do the otherwise, the error message is there. Cool. When we fill both, it's not showing the error message. And when we change that into empty for those of text field, it is showing the error message. So that's pretty good. So thank you guys. I hope this video is helping many people. So I think that's all, and see you in the next video. Bye.